Welcome to the third Side Convo with your host, Bob Phipps. Your panelists today are Rosalind Kahn, Michelle Walters, Luke Kasarjan, and Len Brown. And now, your host, Bob Phipps.
Welcome, everyone, to the Third Side Convo, the show that the fun never stops. I tell you, we've already had some fun pre-show talking to the people, and we've had people actually meet each other, didn't even know that they were going to be on the show together, so we're going to have some fun. Today, we're going to talk about apparently at least the latest polls are showing that the most important topic on the minds of everyone today in this country is immigration. There was an Axios Harris poll that came out last week that actually said that the majority of the country actually favors mass deportations. Now, that kind of shocked me a little bit, but you know, it's out there. And the interesting thing was the Hispanics were even at 50% wanting mass deportation. Now, we've been arguing, we've had discussions before about immigration, and there's a situation, you could call it open borders. Well, so you have open borders on one side, and you have mass deportations on the other. If we can't find a middle ground there, we're doing something wrong, because on Uberdiscourse, there's only one rule. Do not bring up or talk about any specific politician. We don't care about what they did and what they said. Everything else is fair game. After the break, we're going to start our show. We'll see you in a minute.
Corona Cigar Company is your one-stop shop for all your cigar needs. Whether that's a brand new humidor, a box of those new cigars you've been waiting for, a top-of-the-line cutter or lighter, a place to enjoy the finest cigars and spirits with friends, or the only cigars grown right here in the Sunshine State, we've got you covered. Come visit one of our retail locations for the ultimate cigar experience. Visit us online at coronacigar.com.
Oak Ridge Gun Range is a family-oriented shooting range that has been in business for over 30 years. They specialize in basic firearm training and offer numerous services such as consignments, gun trades, gunsmithing, and concealed weapon classes. I even got my training for gun safety at Oak Ridge Gun Range. Great customer service, and firearm safety is what they do best. So find out more at oakridgegunrange.com.
So, Michelle, I heard that you actually mentioned that you've actually been talking to some people today about this to try to kind of figure it out. And what did you come up with? What were some of the thoughts that you came up with and talked to some other people about what we need to do about immigration? Michelle?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, though, I had mentioned, though, the opportunity of being here on the panel, and thank you very much for having me. And actually, once I did a little bit more research, though, on there, I initially thought that I was probably in favor. But once I was able to do a little bit of a deeper dive, I realized that I wasn't. And when I was talking with a particular friend, though, this morning, he was like, "Are you out of your mind? Are you out of your, I mean, there's no way economically we can sit there and take in everybody. Like, are you just out of your mind?" And so, yeah, I come to find out that it was much more of a spirited conversation with just even my neighbors and everybody like that than I had anticipated. And with regards to my other neighbor took a completely different stance on it and stated, he was like, "No, absolutely.
Perfect.
I mean, we need the illegal immigrants, and I don't understand what the problem is."
So you're not the first person to change your mind as we're doing the show. Luke, what do you believe the big parts about immigration that we ought to deal with?
Well, I think it's multifaceted. I mean, people have an issue with open borders, which I agree with. But at the same time, we're also dealing with real people that are here, that live their lives, that have jobs. So it's not as easy as saying, let's just deport everybody or let's just close the borders. Like, there's a whole process. There's a system that we have to look into and create or improve upon.
Right. Rosalind, you're out in California. Is immigration an issue out there?
It's huge.
Oh, yes, immigration is always an issue out here. They'd say the world wouldn't survive without the immigrants. If you go over every job classification, whether it be a restaurant, we had a guy who was coming to fix our dishwasher today. He was Hispanic. He's working all those jobs going from here to there to eternity. You look at the restaurants, you look at all sorts of different businesses. Who's cleaning I was at the school today. Who's cleaning those tables? It's those Hispanic immigrants that are there cleaning them. It's the people.
But you can't assume. But actually, Rosalind, you can't necessarily assume that they're illegal. I know, because these days, apparently it's not even a proper thing to say, "Well, where are you from?" Right? That's kind of a new thing. But not necessarily all them. But I think you're right. There's certainly tons of illegal immigrants that are working. Lenny, give me your first thoughts on immigration. The first time on the show, you didn't even think you were going to be on the show today. You were going to be on the peanut gallery. So what do you believe? Just talk to us about what you believe the most important issues on immigration are.
Well, I believe that Luke is correct. There needs to be a framework and how all this stuff works. And to my knowledge, it exists already in the laws that we have on the books. And the reason why those laws are on there are to protect security and control the flow that comes in. And if we enforce the laws that are on the books, then I think the rest of it will take care of itself. If the public has the appetite to change those laws and loosen the regulations or whatever, then that's fine. But it needs to be done through the normal processes and building those laws.
Well, Michelle, back to you. I mean, should a country have the ability to decide who gets to come into it?
Well, yeah, no, absolutely I do. But the big question, though, that I think here is, back to the original topic on in support of mass deportation or not, and actually, how is it going to be implemented? Because that's my biggest thing is, how would this whole program be implemented? Because I don't necessarily, if we go back and look at past history, it's never worked in the past. So therefore, how is it supposed to work in the future? You know what I mean? And that whole 1954 era, Operation Wetback, it didn't work. It was the second largest, mass deportation of illegals. It never worked. It only lasted, a couple of months, maybe a year, if not so. But so, with regards to the prospects, though, in my opinion, everybody knows that there definitely is a problem. But with regards to this particular topic on this mass deportation, how is it planning to be implemented?
Well, you can open it up beyond mass deportation. I just threw that out as kind of a catch thing just because I'd never seen a poll like that where the majority of people thought that. Luke, you're living or have been living in another country over the past couple of years. How do they handle immigration there?
Yeah, so it's very similar in the arguments to what we've talked about here with Mexico and the U.S. between Dominican Republic and in this case, Haiti. Mm-hmm. Haiti's in a much worse off. They're literally a failed state, and they have a serious immigration issue. They have a lot of people that are illegal that are trying to come across the border, and they have the same arguments where people are saying, well, who's going to, do our landscaping? Who's going to do these other menial jobs? And realistically, there's lots of people that would want to do them just like here. And I think it's important, kind of going off with what Len said as well, that we already have a system in place. It just needs to be followed. If we have a way we want to change the system and the way we want to do things, we should do that. But when we have rules in place and people deciding to not follow the rules we already have in place, that's just a dereliction of duty. That's just not doing your job.
I'm going to let Roz respond, Michelle. That's fine.
Oh, no, I was going to be like, but the fact of the matter is, the rules and the laws, they're not being implemented. They really honestly aren't. And there's no consequences to their actions. So therefore, it's one of those, it's very easy for people just to, bounce back and forth across the border. It's one of those to where I feel like there just needs to be much more of a comprehensive plan that's actually really, truly going to be lived by the law.
But we already do have one. It's just not being appreciated. And I don't know about for you guys, but for me personally, I do have a friend that is illegal in the country that is a friend of mine from Dominican Republic. And all of her family, I'd say 80% of them have made the journey across the border. It took them about a couple of weeks. And they all complimented about how easy it is during these current times and how it's never been this easy before. And that was very hard for me because this is a personal friend of mine that I really enjoy, but also saying that they snuck into my country and, hey, we got away with it. And I also have other friends on the flip side that have been waiting for years and years and years from Belarus, from Ukraine, who have been trying to get either through asylum or just following the proper process to get into the country. And they are basically being vetoed and downvoted as opposed to people that are just sneaking across the border, getting a lawyer and saying, okay, I'm here, good luck getting rid of me. And personally, I just find that to be very unfair. And it also puts me in a tough middle ground because I see both sides.
All right. Rosalind, you're up.
Yes, I am up. So, yes, I do know the story of a person in a group that I was at whose wife is stuck in Tijuana because she doesn't have the legal paperwork. And, they have those trials and tribulations, but it comes down to, as we say, enforcing and making sure those enforcements work. And there are plenty of things to get in ways of other things becoming more important than that it just gets pushed off aside. And so, if you push enough buttons and you do enough things, people can sneak in any way that they can. So to me, the question becomes, how do we enforce those laws, and how do we make them something that, it's the most important thing that we do? And that's kind of my opinion, is figuring out a way to make them into enforceable so that they can go ahead and happen.
Oh, well, let's talk about that after our break, and we're going to go and talk. Well, after our break, we'll talk about how we can actually do stuff and what can we put into place and actually enforce it.
The Tibia Show would like to thank Boggy Creek Airboat Adventures for being one of our sponsors. I got to go on an airboat and saw a real gator. I even got to go to the gem mine and mine for some gems. We ate a steak dinner at the restaurant and even got some gator bites. If you want to have a blast with the entire family, I suggest you go to www.bcairboats.com right now. Get your tickets today. The website again is bcairboats.com. Aw, Dad, my computer's slow again and I can't play my games.
Call Your Computer Solutions today and we will scan for viruses and clean that computer up remotely and make it fast again. Our phone number is 407-826-0810.
Thanks, Dad. My computer's fast again. Now I can do my homework. Thanks for calling Your Computer Solutions at 407-826-0810.
All right, and we're back. Now, Lenny, we haven't had much of you. You're kind of new to this thing. What's interesting is that a lot of people on the left have said, if we wanted to, let's say, enforce our immigration laws, does that mean that construction's not going to be done anymore? I mean, you're kind of around the business atmosphere. Do you think that employers don't want immigration laws enforced?
I think there's a group of employers who like that. Everything's off the books, and that kind of leads to even more other activity that really shouldn't be going on either. I mean, that then the employers are complicit in it. And, there was a philosophy at one time where you penalize the employers so that they're deterred from hiring illegals. But I'm not sure how effective that's going to be either. But at the same time, to the points made earlier, that work is going to get done one way or another. And there is a possibility that there could be a rise in the costs of construction projects if we aren't allowed to use illegals out to the extent that they're being used. There's possibility of that, but the benefits that the country would get as a whole, I think, probably outweigh that.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to figure. I think certainly some change is going to have to happen. Michelle, was there, given the fact that you've been involved with a construction company for the last 20 years, let's say, were there ever illegals on any of those jobs that you know of?
You know what? No, not as far as I know, but I just remember that coming back from California, everybody used, everybody. I just remember in anything that you needed. I mean, right. I just, go down the corner. I needed to move something. Whatever the case, I needed to, redo my front yard. You know what I mean? Just go and pick them up, whatever it is at that one particular corner. So it was one of those where at least I felt in Southern California. I can't speak for O'Leary or some of the other portions, but it's a fabric of that society. I mean, there's no way that businesses would be able to sit there and survive without them. It's absolutely impossible. They sat there and they filled like a particular need, and to where other people wouldn't do it. And there's such an influx because there's so many people coming in there that, first of all, you're able to get everything done, for substantially less than I think that anywhere else.
Well, what if the government actually did enforce the fact, and if they ever had, what if the government said, okay, we find one of your guys that's illegal and they're working for you, it's $5,000, the second one's $10,000, and it goes all the way up to $100,000. That might stop it, wouldn't it?
You know what, though? It might stop it, but I also kind of look at, with regards to and I know this is jumping into a completely different kind of subject or a different area, but just really trying to sit there and figure out other possible solutions and looking at other countries and other frameworks and other, you know what I mean, other different places to where, it's not necessarily punishing the corporation, but maybe it's putting the responsibility in other directions compared to just strictly the corporations.
Okay. Well, let me go back. Luke, why do you think we have such a problem? I mean, I take it you're talking about the Haiti Dominican Republic thing. That's a huge issue, right? Because of the fact that they want to go from one to the other. Is there anything we can do about other than make our country less, what do we want to say, desirable? I guess we're working on that right now.
Of course not. No, of course not. Of course not. I think the reason why so many people want to come here is because of how desirable the country is to begin with. These friends that I have from all of these different countries are not saying, hey, we want to go to Venezuela, we want to go to Cuba. They say, no, we want to come to the United States of America. And I think that's something to be proud of. I think we should just, again, enforce the rules we have. And going off of what Michelle was saying, looking at other countries, the other countries enforce their borders and they follow the rules. And going off of what Len was saying as well, with employers hiring illegal employees, I saw that a lot in Dominican Republic as well. And it was really bad for the employee. The employee didn't have the same protections and rights a normal citizen would. They didn't get the same benefits. And in fact, it was actually worse for the employees because the employers would use their labor, and at the end of the project, they would get them all deported and not have to pay them.
Wow.
So the employer, it's a terrible process, but there was nothing they could do. So they, going off what he said, are also complicit in the same scenario as well.
Rosalind, I mean, obviously, you're not for necessarily open borders, right? I mean, you believe that we've got to have some laws restricting it. And obviously, California's, Texas and Florida, and Arizona, right, are going to be the biggest states that are being affected by it. What do we got to do?
Well, just going off of what Nick had said, is you look at the farming industry, and the farming industry is that whole system. And you think of the schools and how that parlays into it. The fields are open X number of months of the years. That's when the families move in. And when they're low tide or nothing out, the families move out. And, the kids go from school to school to school because it's where the work is and where the work is available. And you can't say, Ma and Pa, we're not going to, we got to keep Johnny in the school because that's what he needs. You got to put food on the table, and they're going to go where the work is at. So it's how do we put food on Americans' tables and yet pay people a decent wage and survive in our society with what's going on and what's happening. So
yeah, the way the law actually is written, you're only allowed here to come for asylum. You're allowed for asylum, but you're not for economic reasons. I don't know if y'all realize that, but apparently, you can't get to the border and say, I want to have a better life. You have to, so everybody, from what I understand, they're all coached on, saying it's asylum. It has nothing to do with better economic, yet we know it's almost like we're lying to the whole situation. We're not taking it into account, are we? Lenny, what about you?
Well, before we let all these people in the last 3 years, how did we get construction projects done? There's a whole lot of people, and I would say that it's possible to get all that stuff done and avoid the abuses that you were talking about, Luke. I mean, that's you come here, maybe that's better than where they came from. I don't know, but I mean, to me, the workers ought to be treated fairly as well. And, if they come in legally, then there's a possibility for them to be, enrolled in Social Security and all the other things that go along with that, with being a legal employee and operating on the right side of the law with that. So, the work's going to get done one way or another, and I'm not so sure that it can't get done without a mass group of illegals doing the work.
So you don't take that argument that Rosalind was talking about, that if we don't have these people, that the strawberries won't get picked.
I don't think so.
I don't know. I think that the dog's pretty upset about what we're talking about here. I'd like to have him weigh in, but yeah.
As long as there's demand for strawberries, business is going to find out how to get them picked.
Come here. You might as well come say hi. Come here.
It's amazing how ingenious we get when there's money to be made in America.
Yeah, exactly. So, oh yeah, so we have another
very
guest
okay.
here. I hope is that a perfectly
I know.
legal? Is that a legal pooch? Vaccinations and everything.
Oh my God, you have no idea. I've had to go to doggy Zoom court, all sorts of lunacy.
Oh my God, I love
That's
it.
going to be for another day and another subject. I cannot wait on that one. But yes, she is legal on all capacities.
All right. Well, we're going to stop there, go to our next break, and when we come back, let's talk about the other effects of all these people here. We'll be right back.
Corona Cigar Company is your one-stop shop for all your cigar needs. Whether that's a brand new humidor, a box of those new cigars you've been waiting for, a top-of-the-line cutter or lighter, a place to enjoy the finest cigars and spirits with friends, or the only cigars grown right here in the Sunshine State, we've got you covered. Come visit one of our retail locations for the ultimate cigar experience. Visit us online at coronacigar.com.
Oak Ridge Gun Range is a family-oriented shooting range that has been in business for over 30 years. They specialize in basic firearm training and offer numerous services such as consignments, gun trades, gunsmithing, and concealed weapon classes. I even got my training for gun safety at Oak Ridge Gun Range. Great customer service, and firearm safety is what they do best. So find out more at oakridgegunrange.com.
All right, for our final segment, one of the things we're going to try to do is we're going to try to look at the other side. So let's say, for example, if you kind of came on the left and you know, you don't really argue that position, what are the arguments on the other side that actually have validity? So Joe Boy's come up with a new way. Joe Boy, why don't you show us a new way we're going to do this? So let's say we put Luke on first, and Luke, you're going to have something showing there that's going to keep you. So we want your comments within this amount of time. You ready? On three. Ready? Go.
All right, I'll try.
Go.
So on the left, I'd say it's okay to be able to have people to come into the country. We just need to be able to have an expedited process and a more secured border that allows it, while still allowing the people that are already here to be able to continue to working as they are.
Excellent. Excellent. Michelle, you're on the clock.
Oh, with me, my personal opinion, though, with regards to this is it's a huge problem. We have more people than what we can possibly even, disseminate throughout this country, with regards to utilization of companies, this, and that. There's going to have to be, I think, much stricter rules on deterring them from coming in, and also some additional measures on, not necessarily with, companies being punished, but certain sponsorships to where making it, if people want to go into asylum situations or whatever, they're going to have to be financially responsible. And
all right, that's it. That's it. Lynn, you're up. Tell us what the actual left has right about this. Are they just because they're caring people and you're not a caring person? What is it? Okay, well, you're on the clock right now.
I think what they have right about it is the bulk of these people who are coming here want economic opportunity, want to better their lives. The problem, or I'm not going to mention the problem, but I think that's probably the main thing is that, we have a great country here with opportunity for everybody that most of the time is pretty equal. And so, people who want to come here and make lives of their own, that's a better life. That's how our country was founded.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said that our country, one of the reasons the country is so great that we tend to get the pick of the litter, or whatever you want to say, we get the best of everybody because they've got to go through something to come here, don't they? And I think all of us here appreciate the courage of what it takes to do to get here. We just want those good people. Okay, Rosalind, you ready to get on a 30-second clock? You never seen one of these before. Ready?
Well,
Flip it, Joe.
I think it's right that there's a system out there, and we need to make sure that system works correctly so that we can get the people in that need to be here with the rules that go along to make that happen. And that is what I see the left side has gone ahead and said.
Okay. And on the right, as far as keeping people out, is there any Well, that's all right. That's your 30 seconds. Lenny, we're going to go back to you. And again, take it from this standpoint. When they come here, should they be accepting this as their country? Is that, I'll throw out the word assimilation, can sometimes be considered a bad word, but when somebody comes here, is that what we're hoping for? You're on the clock.
I think what we should expect and require is that they integrate themselves into life in America, and they don't try to bring their country here and change America to be like their country was. If they wanted to do that, why didn't they stay in their country? Why are they fleeing?
Well, but we are what they call a melting pot. Is that right?
That's true.
Kind of like a melting pot.
There's
all right,
benefits to that.
Michelle, what do you think about the concept of assimilation when they come here? I think you're about to get on the clock.
Oh yeah, no, you know what though, I agree with Len though, with regards to when they come here, yes, no, it's going to be much more that they're going to have to be ingrained in our culture than ours and theirs, and it's an appreciation though of different people and bringing in the flavors of the world. But at the end of the day though, they're going to have to sit there and follow our rules and our way of life here.
All right, Luke, let's put you back on the clock on the assimilation concept.
I think there's a distinction we need to draw between assimilation of just like rules and laws and assimilation of culture. I think people are allowed to bring their culture and keep their culture, their music, their food, their lifestyle. But at the end of the day, it's following the rules and laws and the mores that we have as well. If we're all standing in a line, stand behind me. Don't just try and cut in, which may be common in your country, But other than that, people are more than allowed to bring their culture, and I think that's what makes us great.
Gotcha. Rosalind.
Well, I would tend to agree with what's being said. I always enjoy those days that we have of different cultures that we go ahead and celebrate. And what would the country be without being able to taste the foods and celebrate the cultures and so on and so forth? But there is the part of, there are rules that you need to follow. You need to go ahead and pay those taxes and those things like that. And you can't get out of it by passing the Social Security card around.
Okay, perfect. What about another one here? Let's get on the clock for this one. Anybody that's known somebody that's properly immigrated here will say, has to take a citizenship test. And by God, I think they even have to know English. Let's start with Lenny on that one.
Yeah, that is certainly going to help them be more successful with their endeavors by understanding the basics of what American life is about and being able to speak English. I would agree with that.
Got it. So you're all for that. Yeah, because in all sorts of countries, Australia, you can't go to Australia. Japan, of course, you couldn't even immigrate to Japan. They wouldn't even let it. We've got like the loosest laws of anybody, I guess. Exactly. Okay, Michelle, what about you on English?
Oh, no, absolutely. I think that absolutely it should be a requirement, though, to be able to sit there and speak English. And not only that, but like you stated, it's one of those, I'm on fire. It's on. You know what I mean? That's one of the requirements, though, with regards to a lot of these other countries. So absolutely. I know way too many people that have been here. They don't speak English. They've been here for 30 years and they don't. And I find that as a crying shame. It's just, it's sad.
All right. Okay. We got two. Let's see. Who's next? Luke on that one? Or let's see. Who we left out on that one on the English? Luke?
Well,
Luke,
my time's running, so I think I'll go. I actually don't believe that is a requirement.
Okay.
Also, I am pretty sure that the U.S. doesn't have an official language technically, even though most of our government documents are in English. And that proficiency test, I also believe you can request it in a language you like. It doesn't have to be in English. So if they want to take the test in Spanish, they can. And the third point to that, I think most Americans would absolutely fail the citizenship test. Most people don't even know what the three branches of government are. So.
All right, that's it for you. Rosalind, you got 10 seconds to wrap up. Just on the English, would you say that it has to be, they have to learn it?
Well, it is a requirement. I like to help those people who can't speak the English language, and I'm always correcting people who, mess it up. So do what you need
I've
to
got
do
the
and
same
learn.
problem. My mother was an English major, so she's constantly correcting me. I can't hear well, good, and all those things without knowing which one is it. Thank you so much for the show today. A lot of fun, and we will see you next time on the Third Side Convo, where we will find middle ground everywhere we can. Thank you so much, everyone.
Corona Cigar Company is your one-stop shop for all your cigar needs. Whether that's a brand new humidor, a box of those new cigars you've been waiting for, a top-of-the-line cutter or lighter, a place to enjoy the finest cigars and spirits with friends, or the only cigars grown right here in the Sunshine State, we've got you covered. Come visit one of our retail locations for the ultimate cigar experience. Visit us online at coronacigar.com.